Someone asked me today in the media, they said, it's curious, people are curious, what does Mike Johnson think about any issue under the sun? I said, well, go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my worldview. That's what I believe in.
And they're proud, they're clapping, they're going crazy. I can't do it, Mama, I can't.
You remember in the late 60s, we invented things like no-fault divorce laws. We invented the sexual revolution. We invented radical feminism. We invented legalized abortion in 1973, where the state, the government, sanctions the killing of the unborn. I mean, we know that we're living in a completely amoral society. You know, we don't live in a democracy, because a democracy is two wolves and a lamb deciding what's for dinner, okay? It's not just majority rule, it's a constitutional republic. And the founders set that up because they followed the biblical admonition on what a civil society is supposed to look like. At the end of the day, the problem is the human heart. It's not guns, it's not the weapons.
Boy, have you lost your mind, because I'll help you find it.
You're listening to Facts and Friends. Welcome to this We Need to Talk About the Stuff That's Coming Out of Your Johnson episode of the Facts and Friends podcast.
That's a very private issue, Tino.
I'm, of course, addressing the Republican Party here, just to be clear, and Mike Johnson is the Johnson I'm referring to. My name is Tino, and joining me this week is my friend and co-host. Most of you know him as a guy that has spent the last couple weeks on his knees, and he's a little worn out, but I know him as Judson. Hello, Judson.
Me and Mike Johnson's wife. That's quite the odd couple.
Were you together?
We were not, in fact, together.
Okay. Also joining us this week, you know him as a socialist political commentator and activist who brings you insightful and impassioned commentary daily on his YouTube channel, Good Politic Guy. But I know him as the guy who came on our show and said these things unprompted.
No, I pull it out sometimes. Too bad, because we're coming and we're coming hard.
Welcome back to the show, Mac.
Hell yeah. Okay, I like that introduction. That's good. That's good. No, that's a good intro to my commentary.
Yeah, the most innocuous out of context takes he's ever made, I think.
That's great. That's exactly what my channel is like. So that's totally fine.
So last time you were here, Mac, in addition to hearing you say those things we played unprompted, we interviewed you about the differences between liberals like me and Judson and leftists like you. Listeners can check out that conversation in episode 8 of season 3, National Divorce. Now, this time, you are just sitting in to lend your Gen Z socialist voice to our weekly discussion of U.S. politics.
Right.
What, you're not Gen Z, Tino?
I just missed it. Just missed it. We have no shortage of news to discuss this week, gentlemen. The Trump legal circus tumbles forward with more fines and flipping. Matt Gaetz reminds Judson why he should never fall out of the top 5 worst congresspeople in the House of Representatives.
I didn't think he would.
You did, actually. I have audio of it. We're not putting Gaetz in, or is he in consideration for one of those spots?
I don't think he's in my top 5 at this point.
Okay. I
mean, he's shitty. Don't get me wrong.
Don't encourage him, Judson. And now that they're back in session, the Dunning-Kruger House gets right back to work on what the American people care most about, an action-packed game of musical censures.
Okay.
Later on, we'll talk about our new House Speaker, describe how we got there, and contemplate why things might be worse than they were with Kevin McCarthy.
I mean, I didn't think Kevin McCarthy was the lowest we could get, just for the record.
I'm aware. If you're new to the show, you might be wondering why we're not devoting substantial time to the heinous and avoidable mass shooting in Maine last week. We have covered so many mass shootings before on this show. Nothing's changed except the names, locations, and cumulative body count. After one of the many, many mass shootings in the U.S., we put together a sort of one-size-fits-all news story that we play whenever another one of these senseless, GOP-endorsed mass murder events takes place.
There was another mass shooting today, Tino. Multiple people were killed in cold blood, and nothing will be done about it. I feel like this could be like a boilerplate thing. Like we could run this every single day, but
every show.
Fuck the anti-life Republican Party and the NRA. What's the next story?
listen, I know we're going to get into a conversation about the newly elected Republican speaker, Mike Johnson, who I'm still yet to be convinced is not an AI Republican representative. But, he gave his thoughts and prayers in response to this mass shooting, typical for many Republican representatives. And it just seems as though, nothing is going to change going into the future. I mean, very, very much appealing to sort of the religious right, typical response to this kind of a on repeat sort of situation.
It's remarkable how much the turn the other cheek group opts for gun violence as opposed to that religious side of things of non-violent. I don't know. It's quite the hypocritical position to take, I think.
Right. Maybe. I mean, it's turn the other barrel. It's turn the other, magazine or something. Everybody.
Reload.
Jesus, if he was alive today, would have been armed with an AR-15. I think most of them would conclude.
They would conclude that.
For my part, I'm just exhausted, and maybe that's their strategy on the right. Keep doing this over and over and over, and
run out the clock.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, to be fair, there are also Democrats standing in the way of common sense gun legislation. It's not just the right.
One less, though. That's progress, right?
Sure. Moving on. This week's update on Trump's civil and criminal court cases feels almost like a repeat of last week. There's more flipping and pleas, more gag order violations and fines, but it is newish, I promise. All right, guys, who flipped this week?
Another lawyer, right?
Loosely speaking, yes, Jenna Ellis.
As an attorney who is also a Christian, I take my responsibilities as a lawyer very seriously, and I endeavor to be a person of sound moral and ethical character in all of my dealings. In the wake of the 2020 presidential election, I believed that challenging the results on behalf of President Trump should be pursued in a just and legal way. I endeavored to represent my client to the best of my ability. I relied on others, including lawyers with many more years of experience than I, to provide me with true and reliable information.
Mac, you need a tissue?
I need a tissue. Yeah, this is very emotional. It's emotional.
I'm a sympathetic crier.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. It's really amazing.
I endeavored to represent my client to the best of my ability. I relied on others, including lawyers with many more years of experience than I, to provide me with true and reliable information, especially since my role involved speaking to the media and to legislators in various states. What I did not do, but should have done, Your Honor, was to make sure that the facts the other lawyers alleged to be true were in fact true. In the frenetic pace of attempting to raise challenges to the election in several states, including Georgia, I failed to do my due diligence. I believe in and I value election integrity. If I knew then what I know now,
if I knew I'd be
would
facing
have declined
charges
to represent Donald Trump
that I would have to
in
plead
these
guilty to.
post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse.
If Giuliani's dry cleaner ever comes on this show, remind me to ask him how to remove bus tire track stains. She threw Giuliani under the bus hard.
I mean, it's only fair he farted on her, so.
Was she there during the...
She was the one who was there next to him.
Fart heard around the world?
That's the one, yeah.
She got farted on by Rudy Giuliani?
I'm pretty sure it was the two of them in court when that happened.
Damn it, that's on Mac's bucket list.
The answer that I gave you is they didn't bother to interview a single witness.
That's great. No, that's great. I've always wanted to be in that position.
So then, in an even bigger flipping bombshell last week, ABC News reported that Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, reached an immunity deal with special prosecutor Jack Smith.
You mean deranged prosecutor Jack Smith?
Deranged Jack Smith.
Soros-funded Jack Smith.
That's right. For this ABC report, Meadows told Smith's team that Trump's claims of election fraud were meritless, that Trump was being, quote, dishonest with the American people when he claimed victory on an election night. It's interesting, though. Under oath, immunity Meadows tells a much different story than buy this book and give me money Meadows. They're
the same guy, Tino.
They are, but in his 2021 book, The Chief's Chief, he repeatedly claimed the election was rigged.
I mean, I believe you. I didn't buy it or read it, but I believe you.
I didn't either. Meadows denied the ABC News report claiming that he was granted immunity to testify. His lawyer, George Terwilliger,
that's a name,
told CBS, I told ABC that the story was largely inaccurate. People will have to judge for themselves the decision to run it anyway. So what's going on here? You've got Meadows.
What's inaccurate? I'm curious.
Yeah, so you've got Meadows saying he wasn't granted immunity, or at least saying that parts of the ABC story were inaccurate. We don't know which parts. Also, you have Sidney Powell this week saying her guilty plea was extorted and that she still believes the election was stolen. How are these deals with Smith and Willis, how are they not including clauses preventing them from going out in public and recanting or working to undermine public confidence in court proceedings?
I think they include only what's the word I'm looking for? Provisions that they will tell the truth under oath. They'll testify against whoever, but ideally
But
Trump.
in 2023, these cases are also playing out sort of in the court of public opinion.
I mean, all cases always play out in that court, but I don't think those deals include
This
anything.
to a much larger degree. With most plea agreements, you don't even have to think about the fact that someone might go on a national stage, like with a national audience, and say, disregard everything in the plea agreement, or I didn't testify, I didn't get immunity.
I mean, we don't have rules against lying into the press or on TV.
Well, speaking of the Sidney Powell plea, reality star and 2024 candidate for president of the United States, one Joe Exotic, had some of his own thoughts.
I will never recover from this financially.
It's not equal justice, man. Everybody with the same charge should be facing the same time and the same consequences. Instead of making deals like Sidney Powell got a deal to testify against Donald Trump and the other 18 people now. She got probation, 12 months probation. What kind of bullshit is that, you know?
I gotta say, with Joe Exotic here, like, that's some bullshit.
What specifically do you think is bullshit? That she basically got off with a hand slap?
Yes, absolutely. She was a principal figure in this whole conspiracy, right?
Yeah.
She was one of the driving elements of this.
But she's not their target.
I know that she's not their target, but I think it's a mistake to not make her face some more severe consequences.
Okay.
Unless she really has good information, in which case, I guess I let it slide. But I still don't think Trump faces actual consequences, so.
Ultimately, no. If he does go to prison,
He will not go to prison.
He will be pardoned by the next Republican
He will not go to
president.
prison.
Okay.
Not a thing that will happen.
All right, let's move on to the New York civil fraud case. If you recall, 2 weeks ago, Trump was fined $5,000 for violating a gag order, prohibiting him from attacking Judge Engoron's staff after his team failed to take down a bullshit social post involving Engoron's clerk. Well, this past week, Trump had this to say to reporters during a court recess.
This judge is a very partisan judge, with a person who's very partisan sitting alongside of him, perhaps even much more partisan than he is.
So the person sitting next to the judge was his law clerk.
Are we sure this wasn't a garden variety Quado situation?
We can't have garden variety Quado situations in back-to-back weeks, Judson.
It's called continuity, Tino.
So when Judge Engoron found out about these newest comments, he actually called Trump to the stand to have him clarify who he was talking about.
You mean lie about who he's talking about?
Well, that's what Trump did. He claimed he meant Michael Cohen. Judge called him on his bullshit, fined him $10,000 for violating the partial gag order again.
So, found him not credible on the topic.
Okay.
He, Judge Engoron, is the sole arbiter of the outcome of this case.
Yes.
And has already found the defendant not credible.
Right.
On at least one issue.
Well, he also warned Trump against any further violations, saying, quote, "Don't do it again or it'll be much worse. I call bullshit."
I mean, it'll be more money.
I'm actually surprised Trump lied on the stand.
Really?
What?
Wait, let me rephrase that. That was poorly phrased.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Trump lied about who he was defaming when he was talking to the reporters. In general, I've not been surprised when Trump lies in any setting, including on the stand. But I feel like Trump is kind of calling Engoron's bluff. The judge issues this toothless gag order, which Trump initially ignores anyway, right? They leave the post up that got him the first gag order, or they got him the gag order in the first fine.
They took the post down, but what they forgot was like they claimed they forgot was some sort of like campaign website that had the same thing, information in it.
So he violates it again. First off, Trump's going to pay the fines. He doesn't pay his lawyers. He's not going to pay these fines. And secondly, what can Engoron do to him? Like we said, he's not put him in jail.
I don't think he gets out of paying these guys like his lawyers.
We'll see. In the end, I don't think Trump faces any consequences, at least not lasting ones. Unless the Republican base abandons him en masse, either the stolen Supreme Court will save his ass or the Republicans will use the other branches of government as soon as they fall under their control.
So what do you guys think is the sort of end point of any of these gag orders? I mean, do you think that there's any sort of culpability that's going to be leveled at Trump throughout any of these cases, or just they're all just cowards and they're not going to actually follow through on it?
I don't think cowardice is the way I would phrase it, but they're
being careful.
It would be monetary damages only. They will not revoke his bail. They will not,
no matter what he does. No matter what he does. Even
I
if
will say no matter what he does, but like if it's just the same stuff he's doing now where he's constantly violating the gag order, where he tries to kind of dodge with this, not naming the person, but kind of implicating them, I don't think that he'll face any real consequences for that beyond, like I said, additional fines potentially.
Yeah.
But there are things I think he could do to cross the line and force their hands into something more substantial.
If he pulls out a gun in the courtroom
Well, sure, that would be
then
one
maybe.
thing.
Then maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think there's things he could do beyond that. Like if he slips and actually names and encourages violence against someone, I think that could push someone's hand there in that sense.
To send him to jail?
I don't know about jail.
Isn't it a net win for Trump and his partisan Democrats are all out to get me narrative if a judge sends him to jail?
I mean, it depends on what he did.
It doesn't. Not in this media environment.
No, it's not a total loss for him. I don't think it necessarily by default is a net win.
I think it's a net win because it further inflames his base.
His base is constantly inflamed.
I don't think we've gotten to the apex of...
I don't think we've gotten to the apex of inflammation here from his base, but I will say...
And Mac knows a lot about apex of inflammation.
Absolutely. Exactly. I am the apex of inflammation here, okay, on the left here. But I will say that we have seen some polling data. We have seen some focus groups that have been done, like by Breaking Points, my employer here, for just a shout out real quick. And we have seen a lot of Republicans who have said if Trump does get, even temporarily held in jail, or if he's thrown behind bars for whatever the case may be, then they would no longer support him. So I think that it could have significant political ramifications in terms of some of the backlash from some of his most fringe supporters. But I also think it could have significant political ramifications in terms of people saying, okay, this guy's actually been in jail. This guy's actually been held legally culpable for some of his actions. And so, I would no longer support him at that point.
Fingers crossed, I guess. We're going to move on to the House. So prior to Democrats removing Kevin McCarthy as Speaker...
I'm sorry, who removed what? Huh?
Oh, what? That's what I keep hearing. The Democrats did it.
I mean, I know you've heard that.
Quite a bit. Anyway, when Kevin McCarthy was Speaker, Mac, we referred to the Republican-led 118th House as the Dunning-Kruger-McCarthy or DKM House. Now, for obvious reasons, we can't really do that anymore. I mean, Dunning-Kruger Mike doesn't really work.
I think it works great.
I don't think so.
I told you someone with a first name of M was going to get it, and we're going to be fine.
I don't think it works at all.
No. You need something new. You need something new and innovative. Come on. You got to redefine this guy.
Also, McCarthy was kind of the embodiment of the Dunning-Kruger effect, whereas Mike Johnson is something much, much different.
And worse.
Yeah.
I think he's still not at all qualified to be a congressman, much less Speaker of the House, but for totally different reasons than Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, he's less qualified in different ways.
Yeah, we'll get to that later in the show. So where it really stings, Mac, is that we have a set of congressional awards that we used to call
the DK Emmys.
So we're not sure what we're going to do about that. We'll figure something out. But they're basically awards we'll hand out to members of Congress in various categories. There's the congressperson who crashed and burned a hardest, or the Madison Cawthorn Award. There's the least intelligent person in Congress, or the Louis Gohmert Award. But the big one is just the worst congressperson in the House of Representatives. And we've gone back and forth on this list. We have a running list of the top 5 worst, which we updated during our hiatus Q&A show that never aired. When we came out of that discussion, though, we have
It never aired.
Yeah, because you're going to sound like an idiot.
Okay.
Judson picked these 5 in no particular order: James Comer, Andy Biggs, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Jim Jordan. Now, what struck me about that list even then was the absence of one Matthew Gaetz.
He had been kind of quiet at that point.
Here's what I'd like to do. Okay. Pretty much between the censure and expulsion resolutions, the Speaker of the House mess, and this Matt Gaetz story I'm about to cover, 90% of the rest of the show is about the House of Representatives. So why don't we do this? Let's get caught up on the House goings-on as of Halloween weekend 2023. Then in the close, we can talk through and update our list of worst congresspeople. And Mac, you can chime in on that.
Sure.
All right. So Congressman and Venmo's least favorite customer, Matt Gaetz, has been taking some heat from his colleagues.
You think least favorite, really?
I think so.
Oh, I don't know.
He brought him a lot of bad press.
He's y'all's least favorite? That's what you're saying?
No,
Gaetz?
no, Venmo.
Venmo's
least favorite.
Okay.
They got a lot of press about him paying a underage girl.
Right.
They might be on the any publicity is good publicity boat. I don't know.
Right. We've all been accused of that. Come on. We've all been there.
Well, he's been taking some heat from his colleagues after he and the Gatesville 8 ousted Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. Well, Gaetz is firing back. A few days ago, Chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, Congressman Jason Smith, made these comments about Matt Gaetz.
For Matt Gaetz to say that kind of stuff, it's simply not true. I know the dynamics of the 20 people that voted against Steve Scalise, the 25 that voted against Tom Emmer, and the 22 that voted against Jim Jordan. They were not the same people. They were all different people, and it was for different reasons. So Matt Gaetz is a foolish liar.
I think what Smith is referring to is Gates' characterization or mischaracterization of how and why various floor votes on the House Speaker played out. I think that's what he's saying he's lying about.
Okay.
So Gates went on his own show. Yeah, he has his own show.
Of course he does.
They all have their own shows. All of the best. All of the greatest have their own shows.
We have
Ted
a podcast.
Cruz, they all got their own podcast going on.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has a podcast.
Oh, it's amazing. I don't know if you guys have seen the content coming out of it, but it's phenomenal.
Sure, it's excellent. Well, here's what Gates said about Jason Smith on his podcast.
A foolish liar. We are back live. Jason Smith says, if my lips are moving, I'm lying. Well, you know what? If Jason Smith is breathing, he is living a lie. There might not be another member of Congress who lives a lie every day more than Jason Smith. And Jason Smith knows exactly what I'm talking about. And by the way, so does almost every member of the House Republican caucus. So there's a good deal of projection in Jason Smith calling me a liar when it's Jason Smith who literally has to live a lie.
So without actually saying the words, Jason Smith is a closeted homosexual, Gates outs Jason Smith as a closeted homosexual.
Is that what's going on here? Is that what's actually, is that what the accusation?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. I don't know anything about this Jason Smith guy. If he's a homosexual, that's fantastic. We love that. We support that, of course. Obviously Matt Gaetz has different opinions on that, but I just wanted to say, I've covered a lot of these guys, Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan and Kevin McCarthy and all of that on my channel. The difference between them on policy, on actual policy, is almost nothing, which is like the most ironic part about all of this, is that Matt Gaetz launched this entire sort of like faux revolutionary, sort of like opposition to Kevin McCarthy. And, at the end of the day, what was his main goal? What was Matt Gaetz' main goal? It was to make Kevin McCarthy somehow impossibly more hawkish on, economic policy in the United States, even though they don't have control over the Senate, they don't have control over the presidency. I mean, just
for no actual benefit. Yeah.
Right. For no absolutely no tangible benefits for the Republican Party. And I think that was the most ironic part about this entire fight, is that we ended up with a guy like Mike Johnson, who's essentially indistinguishable on policy from guys like Kevin McCarthy at its core.
What is it? One of the Democrats said when asked about Mike Johnson was like same menu, different waiter.
Exactly.
So I have a different take. I don't disagree with anything you said, but I'm more sort of taking this on its surface. I think on the one hand, Gates is a piece of shit for outing anyone who isn't out. That said, as a gay man, I have very little sympathy for gay Republicans, whether or not they actively worked against LGBTQ civil rights, because they're doing it passively.
Yeah.
If I believed in hell, I would also believe in a special wing for gay Republican men. It's badly decorated. It only gets ESPN and Michael Bay movies, and everyone has to wear knee-length denim shorts and socks with sandals.
Wow. Harsh.
Am I being unfair?
No, just harsh.
Okay. No, not about the hell stuff, about Smith.
I feel really bad for the gay Republicans, the secretly gay Republicans. I feel really bad.
You feel
for them.
bad for them?
Yeah.
I loathe
What about the
them.
secretly drag Republicans, like George Santos and the rest of them?
Is that a secret?
That's not so secret.
Well, not so secret, but well, he tries to make it a secret. But
I don't feel bad for Santos. He's definitely made his bed here. But I feel bad for the Lindsey Grahams, the Jason Smiths, who may very well be closeted homosexuals who can't live their truth because of the profession that they've chosen, and they don't really see another way out of that.
Breaking news.
Mike Pence has dropped out of the Republican presidential primary.
Because he's gay?
It might be.
The lawyers tell me that I have to make it very clear that it's only a coincidence that the Mike Pence breaking news comes in the midst of a story about a closeted gay Republican.
Wait,
Is that the
we
legal
can afford
standard?
lawyers?
We don't have lawyers.
Because I'll say it.
Sometimes we pretend to have lawyers.
We don't have lawyers. That's nonsense.
I'm going to hire Alina Haba. It's just like not having a lawyer.
Right.
We will pay her just as much as Donald Trump has, which is nothing.
Well, I have no sympathy or empathy for closeted gay Republicans.
Yeah, I feel real bad still.
In politics. Zero.
I'm
Sorry, I don't.
You certainly have the better window into what they must be going through than I do. So
I've never seen this Jason Smith guy.
You have. You just it just hasn't really.
Just like Mike Johnson has the world's blandest name, so
he's a made up guy. He doesn't really exist.
If you were to see him, you would be like, oh yeah, I saw that guy.
Okay.
Just before you quickly forget about him again. It's a vicious cycle. Story of his life.
Wipes him from your memory the moment you've seen him. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Also in the House, now that they're back to the work of the people, the House is scheduled to vote on a resolution censuring Rashida Tlaib for, let me check my notes here, criticizing Israel?
I mean, okay.
This is after domestic terror supporter Marjorie Taylor Greene forced that vote through a privileged motion. In response, Becca Blint of Vermont returned the favor, bringing her own privileged motion to force a vote on censuring Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I feel like that's not going to go well, though.
Whereas Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has repeatedly fanned the flames of racism, anti-Semitism, hate speech against the LGBTQ community, Islamophobia, Asian hate, xenophobia, and other forms of hatred. Whereas Marjorie Taylor Greene has repeatedly debased the memories of thousands of victims of the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, by perpetuating conspiracy theories to shift blame and responsibility for mass murder.
I mean, she could go on.
Yeah.
And she does.
Whereas Marjorie Taylor Greene has repeatedly assaulted the foundation of our democracy by perpetuating conspiracy theories related to the January 6th attack on the Capitol, which sought to halt the peaceful transfer of power. Whereas Marjorie Taylor Greene has repeatedly called for violence against elected officials and their families.
There's more, but we have to get to what was perhaps the best motion of all, brought by Republican Congressman Anthony D'Esposito of New York.
Pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I rise to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows: House Resolution 773, providing for the expulsion of Representative George Santos from the House of Representatives.
Do we have to cheer? Is that
you can do whatever you want, man?
You can go for it. I mean, listen, I think that
out.
George Santos is the most entertaining member of Congress that we have right now. Okay, are we really saying that we want to get rid of this guy?
That's an excellent point.
I'm saying I want to get rid of this guy. Yeah.
Okay, so it's what it's about. It's about the crimes, the incessant, criminal behavior and fraudulent behavior throughout Congress.
He's like the rest of them, though, except they're not as entertaining. Mac raises a really good point here.
Exactly.
No, he doesn't. I mean, I see what you're going for. I don't think that I base my desire to have someone in the House of Representatives on their entertainment value. That's all. I mean, everyone's got to have their own metrics. That's just the way I roll. So, it's fine if you want to have the funny guy in there.
I think it gives you a little bit of a leg up. I think that all of them are criminals and all of them could justifiably be removed from Congress. But I think that, you give a little bit of leeway for somebody like George Santos, provides unlimited content for, for all of us.
One of the biggest criminals.
But the upside of removing George Santos is that he's almost certainly going to be replaced by a Democrat. So there's that.
That's also true.
All right. We've got a lot more show to get to, but let's take a quick break. And then when we come back, we'll introduce you to the terrifying new Speaker of the House. Hey, FNFers, it's your favorite bad gay, Tino. I just wanted to take a second to invite you to become a supporting listener of Facts and Friends by subscribing to our Patreon page at patreon.com/factsandfriends. Patreon is a completely secure platform that gives independent shows like ours a more direct way to interact with our listeners while also giving you a way to support our work and keep us on the air. The costs of making a podcast really do add up, and as an independent show, the burden of paying those costs falls on us. By supporting us today, you not only keep us on the air, but there's also something in it for you. You'll gain access to the larger Facts and Friends community by way of the Facts and Friends Discord server. There you can interact with fellow listeners as well as me and Judson. We're there all the time. We also have a few Patreon-only bonus mini episodes of Facts and Friends with plans to do full-length Patreon-only episodes and even live shows. There's also a ton of content from Judson and I's old show, the On-PR Podcast, which you can get through a Patreon-only feed directly to your podcast listening device. Here's what that's like.
Mohammed Abad from Edinburgh, Scotland, was in a car accident at the tender age of 6.
Oh.
And he, in fact, did lose his wiener.
Oh, buddy. They had just barely gotten to know each other.
Nearly 37 years later, through the miracle of science, Mr. Abad has been surgically fitted with a bionic penis.
Wait, what? No way.
We have the technology.
Who can rebuild him?
He's a virgin, as you might expect.
Sure.
2 years ago, though, we got married, but he didn't tell his wife what was going on down there.
No.
Yeah.
How do you not tell someone?
Surprise! So that marriage didn't work out.
No shit.
Wow.
But upon hearing of his story, an award-winning dominatrix, Charlotte Rose, has offered to be the first vagina to experience this technological marvel. So this is a sad story, right? But with a happy ending.
Right.
Jamie, what do we do on this show with sad stories?
You make a song out of it.
That's right.
Oh, no.
That's right. Hey, Jamie's husband. Can I get a little guitar?
A young kid just started school when a car crash ripped off his small tooth. He was 43 when he got it replaced. Science fixed him, now it's time to get laid. Did I mention it's bionic?
That is one of your better outings. That's one of your
So
better
good.
outings.
That's excellent.
It's like Wang. That's how the next.
Oh my God. It's so good.
Listen, Judson and I are deeply grateful for any support you can give, and we will make sure to recognize all of our patrons on the air. So please, do your part to help keep the show on the air by supporting us over at patreon.com/factsandfriends. And if you already have, thank you so much. I feel like this is the third chapter in a 3-part series covering the Speaker of the House morass this past month.
It's certainly our third story on it in the last 3 weeks, I think.
But the way we've approached them is sort of tell the story of what's happened over the last week, right? So chapter 1 was the fall of McCarthy.
Yay.
Chapter 2 was the shaming of Jim Jordan, to the extent that that's possible.
Yay.
And now we pick up after Jordan has failed and the House GOP conference, many of them would be traitors to their country, are considering 9 new candidates for the job.
Right.
So I was a little bummed this moved so quickly because I had hoped to do a masked right winger game that was just including the speaker candidates. I'm sitting on all these amazing AI created, MAGA inspired Masked Singer costume images for masked right winger.
Well, and like 95% of them you never heard of before?
Yeah, there's a bunch that you haven't heard of. So maybe it's less fun.
Would have been hard.
Well, but you know that the ones that you've never heard of before are always the ones that are the most insane by far.
I don't know if that's true.
It's hard to guess. I mean, the only one I knew before this, I mean, Tom Emmer I knew because Ken Buck kept nominating him.
I feel like the worst of the worst.
And Byron Donalds I knew, but that was
were
it.
the ones that opposed McCarthy for not being hawkish enough or for not being conservative enough for working with Democrats. Now, some of these guys are certainly that, but some of them are also just the same thing you called Mike Johnson in the last segment, which is a same menu, different waiter, right?
Yeah.
So the 9 candidates we had were Tom Emmer, Kevin Hearn, Jack Bergman, Daniel Muser, Gary Palmer, Pete, I thought he was dead, Sessions, Byron Donalds, Mike Johnson, and Austin Scott. The Republican Congressional Conference quickly coalesced around Tom Emmer on Tuesday, and Judson and I readied our needle and thread as it became clear Emmer was headed to defeat, which would earn him a spot on our subhuman centipede of House Speaker failures.
What was we had a show title already ready to go when Emmer was going to step down. I can't remember what it was, though.
Yeah, we did.
I have to go back to the Discord and find it, but it was very funny.
I don't remember.
You all missed out.
Get on the Discord. Emmer was going to put up a real fight before going down, which admittedly is the preferred method of someone going down among many Republican men. The resistance to Emmer seemed to be motivated by a few things. He voted to certify the 2020 presidential election. 2, he has a record of at least some support for LGBTQ plus rights. 3, he has supported Ukraine in their war against Russia. And 4, he has not always seen eye to eye with Trump, perhaps the gravest sin in his party. And let's be clear, the first and last there in particular are a litmus test for Republican House Speaker.
Yeah.
If you supported the peaceful transition of power after a free and fair election in 2020,
you were not in this race.
You're a rhino. You're a rhino.
Yeah. So going back to when the House GOP conference was wasting everyone's time on Jim Jordan, Ken Buck actually cast a vote for Tom Emmer for all the right reasons.
I guess my first question is, do you really want Tom Emmer to be Speaker?
No, I don't. I don't like Tom Emmer. I figured this would be the worst job in America. Mike Rowe would not want to do this for his TV show. This is a terrible job.
Yeah.
So with Emmer now officially nominated at this point in time, my first question was, would Ken Buck support him?
Sounds like no.
Well, technically he wants the job now, right? So
right.
by that I would assume no.
Yeah.
But it's also still the worst job in America. A terrible job. So then maybe?
If none of the other 8 candidates are who he wanted, I guess maybe.
Well, regardless of how Ken Buck felt, Emmer, who had a reputation of not always walking lockstep with Donald Trump, had to mount a serious Trump ass-kissing campaign. Reporters asked Trump off teleprompter what he thought of Emmer last week.
Did you endorse Tom Emmer for Speaker? He hasn't historically been your biggest fan, but he is the most likely candidate right now.
Well, I think he's my biggest fan now because he called me yesterday and he told me I'm your biggest fan. So I don't know about that. Well, we're looking at a lot of people and, I'm sort of trying to stay out of that as much as possible. But they'll get it straightened out. But no, I've always gotten along with him and I get along with all of them, really. A lot of good people. We have a lot of great people.
All right, so got along with him. He's a good person.
Trying to stay out of it, just, keep him.
Trying to stay out of it. That's my favorite
a lot of good people, folks.
Emmer couldn't share that footage on his social media fast enough. Thank you, Mr. President, he wrote of that lukewarm. I don't know if you can call it an endorsement.
It was definitively not an endorsement.
But the next thing from Team Trump was about the furthest thing from an endorsement you could possibly imagine. You want to walk us through that one, Mac?
I have many wonderful friends wanting to be Speaker of the House, okay? And some of them are truly great warriors. Rhino Tom Emmer, okay, we call him Rhino Tom Emmer, who I do not know well, is not one of them, okay? He never respected the power of the Trump endorsement, okay, or the scope of MAGA, Make American Great Again. He's a rhino, a Republican in name only. Okay, we call them rhinos.
It's like the animal, right? I just found this out. It's like the animal.
Right. Yeah.
So the thing that's funny about what Mac just performed, other than it being funny on its own merit, the clip I played from actual Trump and the post from Donald Trump on Bullshit Social were 2 hours apart.
Yeah.
And not to lean into DeSantis' attacks on Trump, which we didn't have time to get to this week, but Trump's prepared remarks sure sound way different than his spontaneous ones.
It feels to me like he had this in his drafts already, too. Like the Tom Emmer.
This was ready to go out.
Yeah, he's like just waiting, polishing it up so that it would like cut just the right way.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, he gets asked off the cuff and he's like, oh, he's fine. I mean, we've always gotten along pretty well. A lot of people were looking at, but he's okay.
Well, with Trump actively campaigning against him, Emmer had his work cut and he's out.
Tragic. It's tragic.
You're not going to start crying again, are you, Mac? Like you did when Jenna Ellis
I've been crying this entire podcast, dude. I've been crying since the beginning,
fair.
since Jenna Ellis.
It's for different reasons, though.
I think, Judson, you commented on our Discord channel shortly after this happened that we might need to start measuring political tenure in nanoscaramucci's.
Yeah. Pico scaramucci's, I think I said. We actually clocked it, and I think he's actually he was in the centi scaramucci's, so hundredths of a scaramucci.
Wow, okay. So not quite a nano.
Not quite that far down the list there, but still not a lot of time. Like 4 hours.
In Emmer's defense, you can't really say you had the full 2023 Speaker of the House nominee experience without some abject humiliation, right?
I mean, it's what Kevin McCarthy was known for.
Well, almost immediately after Emmer withdrew, the Republican conference got right back into work casting nomination votes behind closed doors. This time, the field was only 5 and had some new names. Mike Johnson and Byron Donald were still there. They were joined by Mark Green, Roger Williams, and Chuck and he's out.
Poor Fleischman.
Maybe we do need Pico Scaramucci's after all.
Y'all are making half of these people up. Half of these people don't exist.
No, they're real people.
Mark Green, Roger Williams. We're just picking like random first and last names and throwing them together.
I was going over the vote count and I'm like, it just said Green. I'm like, shit, I have to make sure that's a real person. So I had the same initial reaction. I had to look up their first names and make sure they were actually like contenders. Well, they weren't really contenders.
They're just using colors to mark them now. The blue candidate.
So very late Tuesday night, the insider buzz was that little-known Louisiana Congressman Mike Johnson had achieved the necessary support within his party and could win a floor vote, which was scheduled for Wednesday. In a late-night press conference, Johnson took to the podium to announce his nomination, but when a reporter asked him about his role in Trump's 2020 attempted coup, this happens.
So
Can
infuriating.
you help lead the efforts to overturn the 2020 election results? Will you-
The answer is yes, by the way.
Yeah, he did. He did.
But the response says it all.
Yeah, I mean, but have you guys considered the shut up aspect of the response there? I mean, have you guys considered the fact that, this was a couple years ago, and so, we tried to overthrow the US government. It is what it is.
Yeah. Why don't you even bring up this old news? Gosh.
It was forever ago. I mean, who even remembers that?
Leave it to you guys to defend the old white lady.
Yeah.
Was she white? Really?
Wednesday, they made it official with 220 votes. Mike Johnson became the new Speaker of the House and
winning the worst job in America.
Right. Exactly. And right out of the gate in his acceptance speech, he had this really awkward and kind of creepy comment about his wife.
Which I've already heard because you referenced it in the open.
I want to thank my dedicated wife of almost 25 years, Kelly. She's not here. We couldn't get a flight in time. This happened sort of suddenly. But we're going to celebrate soon. She spent the last couple of weeks on her knees in prayer to the Lord, and she's a little worn out.
Woo!
That's the first time I've heard that.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's amazing.
So is that how he secured his speaker votes? I feel really bad making that joke, but dude, do you not hear yourself talk?
I cut it off prematurely. He did say all of our knees were sore or something like that.
All of our knees. Oh my God. Dude.
So it was a team effort, you're saying.
That's amazing. That's what it takes. That's what it takes to get it done. That's how you get to this position.
Now, back when McCarthy was on his last legs as Speaker, Judson, you cautioned me that I should be careful what I wish for in the McCarthy ouster, that essentially whoever replaces McCarthy could be worse. So was Judson right?
I'm going to go on a limb and say, yeah, probably.
We're continuing to learn more about Johnson's past with each passing day, but it's worth noting that just 72 hours after being sworn into Speaker, the answer to that question is already a resoundingly clear fuck yes.
Called it.
Yeah.
Johnson claims to be a Christian, like a lot. I mean, you can't really get him to shut up about it, really.
Like my Pence, I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, and I'm a Republican in that order. Sorry, that was too deep a voice.
Someone asked me today in the media, they said, it's curious. People are curious. What does Mike Johnson think about any issue under the sun? I said, well, go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my worldview. That's what I believe in.
Oh my God.
You heard it here first on the Facts and Friends podcast, folks. By his own admission, House Speaker Mike Johnson supports executing any girl or woman who loses her virginity before marriage.
Pro-abortion.
House Speaker Mike Johnson supports the murder of babies whose parents do not acknowledge God. House Speaker Mike Johnson fully supports slavery. The Bible, like the Constitution, is a deeply flawed document written by men.
Well, and interpreted by every person differently, let's be honest. Like the statement he made doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Because there's as many interpretations as there are people.
Exactly. I studied the Bible. Based on Johnson's views, he isn't remotely Christian, insofar as I understand the term. He's only Christian in the Republican Jesus sense, and Mac, you kind of went over this at the beginning of the show. Fuck the poor, gay people are an abomination, greed is good, guns for all, women must give birth if pregnant, no matter what, and then who cares if those babies go on to get their heads blown off in kindergarten. That's
exactly as our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ prescribed.
Republican Jesus, please, not just any Jesus.
That's who Mike Johnson is.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have some personal experience with this because I went through Christian/Catholic school throughout the entirety of my kindergarten through high school experience. And, obviously I'm an atheist now at this point, but I gotta say, I mean, it seems like a lot of people, a lot of conservatives seem to be misinterpreting some of the words of Jesus Christ. I think he was a Middle Eastern refugee, a socialist before socialism even existed, maybe, if you want to be as audacious as to say that. And so, I mean, this guy, if I could just give you guys a little bit of a perspective in terms of some of the policies that he supported, I got a list in front of me here.
Let's hear it.
He's a young Earth creationist, meaning that he believes
I did not know that.
He believes the Earth is around 6,000 to 10,000 years old at this point.
He denies pretty much all of science that we know of.
Right. Exactly. He wants to ban all gay marriage. He wants to ban all abortions, including exceptions there for rape and incest.
What about the ones the the Bible's okay with, though. Come on.
You know, it is what it is. We got, he wants to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. He's oppositional to minimum wage increases. He denies man-made climate change and, of course, voted to overturn the 2020 election. So that's a little bit of a rundown there in terms of his basic beliefs.
He didn't just vote to overturn the 2020 election.
The architect.
He pretty much led the effort, at least in the Texas case.
He was the most patriotic American leading that effort.
Did you see he used to be the spokesman for the Ark Encounter?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, apparently he used to be a spokesman for the Ark Encounter. Is that the one in Kentucky? I forget which one that is, where they have that one. But it's basically a life-size Ark that's supposed to teach people about the biblical story of Noah's Ark. That was a job he had.
But wait, there's more.
Listen to Mike Johnson on school shootings.
You remember in the late 60s, we invented things like no-fault divorce laws. We invented the sexual revolution. We invented radical feminism. We invented legalized abortion in 1973, where the state, the government, sanctions the killing of the unborn. I mean, we know that we're living in a completely amoral society. And so people say, how can a young person go into their schoolhouse and open fire on their classmates? Because we've taught a whole generation, a couple of generations now of Americans, that there is no right and wrong.
You heard it here first, Lewiston. You and your fucking no-fault divorce laws are the reason why Robert Card went on a savage killing spree.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's revolting.
Yeah.
Beyond revolting.
Yeah, I'd heard that before you played it. Oh, God.
Remember when it was just pot and video games?
Yeah, rock and roll, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. This guy believes this shit, too. That's what's frightening.
I think the most terrifying bit of that is the no-fault divorce.
It's funny, your wife said the exact same thing.
There is no downside to no-fault divorce unless you're an abusive, controlling husband who doesn't want your wife to be able to leave.
Unless you're Steven Crowder, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right, exactly.
I think we repeat ourselves here.
That's just another way of saying what Judson said. Matt Walsh, is he another no-fault divorce person?
I think they all are.
Yeah. I don't think he's divorced yet that I'm aware of, but I mean, they're all...
Speaking of killing sprees, here's Mike Johnson on guns.
At the end of the day, the problem is the human heart. It's not guns, it's not the weapons.
The problem is the human heart. The human heart is so fragile. If the human heart were just tougher.
No. Here's the thing that you guys don't recognize, okay? In the United Kingdom, in France, in Spain, in all of these other Western European countries that we could compare ourselves to.
No human hearts.
People, they simply do not have human hearts, okay? That is the distinguishing feature between the United States.
The Tin Man from Wizard of Oz was of European descent, I believe.
Exactly. They are simply not Americans. They do not have human hearts, and therefore they do not have mass shootings.
And that's why they're not at risk, from gunshots.
Exactly.
How about Mike Johnson on democracy?
You know, we don't live in a democracy because a democracy is two
Jesus
rules in a
Christ.
land deciding what's for dinner. Okay, it's not just majority rule; it's a constitutional republic, and the founders set that up because they followed the biblical admonition on what a civil society is supposed to look like.
Hi, constitutional republic is a type of democracy. Welcome to 8th grade civics. Jesus fucking Christ.
Ever since the attempted Republican coup of 2020, they've been pushing that we're not a democracy thing.
We're both.
Yeah. Mac, you brought up his position on gays. It's a little worse than you even laid out.
Of course it is.
He filed an amicus, or he led at least an amicus brief in 2003 in Lawrence v. Texas. That is the case that, I don't know that you were born yet, Matt, but this saw the Supreme Court strike down bans on gay sex.
What year was it?
2003.
Okay, I was born. Come on, guys.
Barely.
Okay, I'm 24. I'm not that young. Okay.
Okay, you're 24.
Not yet having gay sex.
That's true. That's true. I had not yet had gay sex at that point.
So the Supreme Court struck down the ban on gay sex. I actually doubt they would do that now.
Yeah.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me a lot of Amy Coney Barrett.
Sure.
He may not be as smart as she is, but
he would like the ladies in the red robes very much.
Oh, absolutely. He said back then that authorities had, quote, legitimate grounds to proscribe same-sex deviant intercourse.
Oh, he called you deviants.
And though she herself is not speaker, the Huffington Post reported Johnson's wife, Kelly, runs a counseling service that advocates the belief that homosexuality is comparable to bestiality and incest, according to its operating documents.
Jesus Christ, man.
Consent. It's not the same.
So, Johnson.
Children and animals can't consent.
You were right. I was wrong. This guy is a metric fuck ton worse than Kevin McCarthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's real bad.
And he does it in a way, if you've heard him speak, he's kind of affable. You know, he's kind of...
That's how he got the job. I mean, nobody hated him like the rest of the candidates.
He's an affable Christian fascist, right? He's like a very affable Christian fascist.
It's exactly what he is.
Yes, and he is another stone in the road that we're paving toward a Christo-fascist, autocratic.
Yeah, and I'm
United
worried too
States.
because I think this moment of unity by the GOP is likely to last a little while, given the debacle they made of this whole process. They know that if they were to fall apart again, like there's no coming back for them. Like the public opinion would turn irrevocably for a while against them. They were already, viewed as kind of clowns for how they handled this whole speakership issue, and so.
They can't do that again.
I don't see a way of getting rid of this guy at this point.
So at the top of the show, I suggested the new speaker is not qualified to have the job, and I do stand by that. I feel he isn't qualified because it seems apparent to me that he puts his religion over our Constitution, which is a violation of his oath of office. What do you all think?
That's 95% of the Republican Party.
Sadly, that is true.
I agree, but yeah, there would be a lot of vacant seats in the House if we held to that.
Maybe there should be.
Maybe there should be.
Any last words on Mike Johnson, Mac?
Who?
Any last words on Mac Judson?
I mean, he's a little bit sexy. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I mean, he's got the looks, he's got the vibe to him. So I think, maybe he'll last a little bit longer than Kevin McCarthy, but I still think that you're still going to have this sort of like snake that's like rattling in the back of everybody's minds that like this guy could be removed at any moment. And so we'll see how long this guy lasts. I don't know. I mean,
that was the craziest thing. Like I asked Tino, like, so are they going to get rid of that one vote to oust him rule? And they're not.
I did see a story today that he's trying.
Okay. Well, he should, because that's a stupid rule for them.
Doesn't he kind of look like a grown-up Harry Potter, but one who had actually been turned by Voldemort?
Went to the dark side?
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
Traded in his Gryffindor cloak for Slytherin on account of getting rid of his glasses. I guess he fixed his eyes.
Full on Death Eater. Yeah. Slytherin is just Death Eater larva.
Actually, he still has the glasses. He's so vague. I didn't even remember he had glasses. Jesus.
I feel like if we bring up Harry Potter, we need to shit on trans people too.
No, that's already been taken care of, I think.
She does all the lifting for us.
Yeah, we don't have to bring that up.
So why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back, close out the show. I'm going to let Mac and Judson hash out who the 5 worst Congress people are.
Okay.
And
perfect.
So we'll be right back.
Hey FNFers, Judson here. Tino and I are always looking to interact more with our fantastic audience. If you have questions, ideas, complaints, or just need a friend, you can reach out to us at factsandfriends@gmail.com. That's facts, the letter N, friends at Gmail. And if you want to make a more intimate connection, I'm on Twitter at thefaultinmyarse. Again, the fault, the letter N, my arse. And you can find Tino at Uncle Tortilla. We can't wait to hear from you.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
So are either of you dressing up for Halloween? I hear Kelsey Swift is a popular boy-girl couple costume.
I got something in the works.
Is Mac going to be Kelsey and I'll be Swift? Is that what we're doing?
I mean, you didn't really give me much preparation there, but I'll fill the slot if you need me to.
I'm just checking. I am a big Swiftie. So.
I got a costume planned. I got my thing planned.
Is it a secret?
It's not a secret. I'm a little bit of an anime weeb, so I'm probably going to be going as like Zoro from One Piece. So that's what I'm planning on.
Nice.
Okay. Judson, you, the kids?
Nah, the kids are the girls are dressing up. The boy has decided he's too old for that now. So he's not even going to go out with his buddy who is still trick or treating. He's just going to stay at home and hand out candy.
Okay.
So even your kids are too old to be dressing up, and you just had me introduce my Halloween costume. So
just my oldest. Just my oldest.
No, that's cool. That's cool. It's fine.
I wasn't going to make that connection, Mac, but
he's not quite your age.
No, that's fine. It's all good. It's all good.
Thank you all so much for listening to the show this week. The Facts and Friends podcast is written and directed by me, Tino. Oh, speaking of writing, Judson, you don't usually write for the show.
Correct.
But when you do, it's excellent. I realized after we released last week's show that I forgot to point out that you wrote the lines for Sidney Powell's Kraken.
I did.
A brief but chilling appearance, rather. So great work, as always.
Thank you.
Also, Judson and I do the editing, producing, executive, and otherwise. That's right, we do the executive editing, bitches. Now, most of you know this podcast is an independent outfit. We have no staff. If it gets done, Judson and I did it. Before we get to our closed topic, though, you know that talk we have to have. The Facts and Friends podcast needs your help because we're an independently produced show. There's no big corporation behind us paying the bills, and with podcasting comes bills. So by helping us out, you're not only keeping this show on the air, but you're doing your part to support independent podcasters. Here's what you can do. Tell your friends about the show. Encourage them to listen and subscribe. Also, 5-star reviews and Apple Podcasts help a ton, so please leave us one. Finally, if you can spare a few dollars, and we know not everyone can, you'd be doing us a huge favor by joining our community of supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/factsandfriends. Thank you so much for helping out. We love doing this show, and we can't do it without you. Okay, on to our closed topic. Now, we've spent the better part of this show in the House of Representatives, and as promised, we need to refresh our list of the 5 worst people in the House. Now, Mac, I know you're going to be tempted to put some of those corporate stooges in the Democratic Party on this list. Actually, that's fine. If you want to nominate any Democrats, I will leave that up to you.
Okay.
Here's who we have to choose from right now. If you think there's a Democrat worse than these 5 people or a Republican that needs to be on this list, go ahead and add them.
Sure.
But whoever we add, we have to get this list down to 5 before we sign off.
Okay.
It's some stiff competition.
Here we go. James Comer, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Mike Johnson, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Andy Biggs, Kevin McCarthy, Paul Gosar, Elise Stefanik, Andrew Clyde, George Santos, Nancy Mace, Clay Higgins. I'll add a Democrat, Dean Phillips.
Okay. Well, I can't help but notice that was a lot more than 5. I think I was.
Oh yeah, we're trying to reduce this list.
Okay, so we're trying to cut it down. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of those people would be in my probably bottom 5. I mean, obviously Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, those are like some of the easiest there. But, also, as I made the point earlier in the show with George Santos, I think that they have an entertainment value to them that needs to be contributed in terms of the conversation of them being bottom 5. So
yeah, I don't think I put Santos in the bottom 5. Yeah, that's fair.
All right, I'm going to cross them off as you guys.
Okay, so I'll take George Santos off the bottom 5, although I think that he's probably the single most absurdly corrupt member of Congress, obviously for obvious
reasons.
That's
a high bar too.
No, he said absurdly corrupt.
Oh, I guess
absurdly corrupt. Yeah, many members of Congress are very corrupt, but he's cartoonishly corrupt, which is like a whole different level, right? So, but I think he's entertaining at least, which kind of gives him some salvageability there.
Also, where did the baby come from?
What's the baby?
You didn't hear about the baby?
No, I didn't. Oh, the baby that he was carrying.
Yeah, that was carrying.
He walked out with a baby at one point. Yeah. No, he stole that shit. He stole that.
He stole.
100% he stole that shit. I don't know whose baby that is, but good for him. Good for him.
He's long since sold it.
Yeah.
He's very much the epitome of be gay, do crimes.
Right, exactly. That baby is gone. That baby has been trafficked to a different country. We don't know where the baby is, but it's it is what it is. He gets away with that.
Also, the baby died in 9/11.
Exactly. So, right. Exactly.
So I think I heard in the breakdown so far that MTG and Lauren Boebert are being considered for the final list.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, but those are the easy ones, and I almost have a problem.
What about Nancy Mace? Could she come off?
Okay, so if I'm being real with you guys, when I say my worst 5 members of Congress, I'm not necessarily just basing it off of policy-wise who are the first, worst 5 members of Congress just based on policy.
I think you hit on that earlier too, right? Like they're all the same. Right, we're arguing over very minor semantic issues.
And so I think that I would maybe throw a couple of people in there who just kind of annoy me a little bit more than some other members of Congress. And
should I start typing Hakeem Jeffries right now? Or
obviously Hakeem Jeffries would be up there, but he's also he's kind of a figurehead. So I maybe wouldn't even put him in the bottom 5.
Okay.
I would put somebody right now like Richie Torres. I would put him in the bottom 5, honestly.
Why?
Just with his stances on Israel, honestly. Okay. I think that he has been so aggressive. I don't know if you guys have been looking at his Twitter feed recently, but just been so aggressively anti-Palestinian that I think it's almost, again, gotten sort of cartoonish at this point.
Right.
Where he's literally attacking Jewish protesters for a ceasefire and saying that, they are anti-Semitic. So I think that that's kind of been absurd at his level.
I mean, anti-Semitic Jews are the worst.
Right, exactly. Right, totally. So I would maybe throw Richie Torres in terms of just right now, given the heat of obviously all
in the moment, yeah.
Right, in the moment, maybe Richie Torres is down there for me. I'd have to really think about it because there's a lot of Democrats in the House of Representatives who kind of piss me off a lot. Nancy Pelosi I'd throw in there just because she's still around, and it's kind of just why have you not retired on a beach somewhere and gotten yourself completely removed from politics. I find that a little bit annoying. I think that she has the wealth, she has the capabilities to just sort of supply her family for the next 20 generations and, go sip a mojito on some beach somewhere. So maybe just, get yourself disinvolved with politics.
That's worse, potentially, than an outright insurrectionist.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I agree there.
No, I mean not on a principled stance necessarily, not on a policy stance, but just in sort of like
I think Mac just wants these people in the discussion.
Right. It's just sort of like piss off a little bit, just kind of go retire and just enjoy the rest of your life or whatever the case may be.
I could say that to all 435 of them at this point. Or 433, I guess, right now. But I'm comfortable with saying we could just rotate Congress every 2 years. I'm okay with that.
Sure.
All right. Yeah. Is Mike Johnson among your potential finalists?
I'm going to be honest. I didn't know that Mike Johnson was a human being that existed until approximately.
We are including AI generated.
Okay, so if we're
entirely possibly it's not.
That's fair. That's fair. If we're including,
I love that take.
If we're including AI generated Republicans, then yes, I would include Mike Johnson down there. I think that he's a full blown Christo-fascist, insane lunatic. So I would put him down there in the bottom, especially now that he's in this high position of power now.
Elise Stefanik, does she warrant consideration for the list?
She's up there. I mean, I think that
she's not in the bottom 5.
Sort of in a countervailing way. She's almost like, if you look at her Twitter feed, she's endorsed every single Republican that has failed in their in their attempt to become the speaker. So in that way, she almost might be like a radical socialist revolutionary. So we don't know. At the end of the day, we don't know.
Off the list.
So I don't know if she could be bottom 5.
I think she's off my list for sure. She's not the bottom 5.
Right. She's not bottom 5.
She's not great.
So who do we have left at this point?
We have Dean Phillips. We can probably take him off, right? His only sin is running for president.
He's the dipshit that's running for president as if he's sort of like a Joe Manchin type, and he's kind of like, oh, what if we moved further to the right and tried to outflank Biden from that angle?
Asked Harlan Crow for a donation and got it.
Okay, so I would put him. You know what? Let's keep him. Let's keep him around.
Okay, we're gonna keep him on. Okay,
we'll keep him around.
Okay,
pretty
Clay
disgusting.
Higgins.
Clay Higgins. I don't really have much of a take on him, other than he just sounds like a fake, MLB player or something like that. Is he a real member of Congress? He sounds like he's
an insurrectionist.
Clay Higgins. I know
Higgins and Biggs and Gosar.
He does sound like a baseball player.
Gosar is great though. No, Gosar. I don't know if you guys have seen his Twitter feed.
Great.
But
what?
Gosar is phenomenal, dude. He's the one who has the completely deranged Twitter feed, right? He's the one who will just tweet out
he's got a deranged everything.
His own family would put him on this list.
Right. No, he's the one who's he'll tweet out oh, I just ran over a deer with my car or something at 2 a.m. or something.
And then backed over it.
Right.
But then it's actually a person that he killed? Yeah.
I think that, so maybe he'll be top 5. He's good.
Okay, we're going to leave him in. Okay. All right, Andy Biggs.
Yeah, Biggs is in the same boat as Higgins.
A lot of these guys are too similar. I think you guys need a little bit more variation in the bottom 5. You need
What's a long list, Mac?
Well, I know. So what's
221 of them?
So we got who's our bottom 5, right? Matt Gaetz. I'll put Matt Gaetz in the bottom 5. You know what?
Okay, so I'm going to give him a green. I'm going to highlight him in green. Yeah. He's
definitively in the bottom 5.
Let me say this: the thing that pisses me off the most about Matt Gaetz is that he, more than anybody, tries to pretend as if he is some sort of an outsider, populist fighting against the system or whatever. And more than anybody, he represents exactly what the establishment has, been asking for decades in this country. I mean, the biggest gripe that he had with Kevin McCarthy was that he was not able to more aggressively slash social programs for working class people in this country. So I think that he's one of the biggest frauds in the entire country, and he definitely deserves to be bottom 5.
Okay, so I'm going to take James Comer, Andy Biggs, Andrew Clyde, and Clay Higgins off the list just because they're all the same guy.
Okay,
right?
Exactly. There you go. That's perfect.
Now, Kevin McCarthy, do we take him off the list just out of pity?
Yeah, out of pity. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'd be enabling him to leave him on the list because of his humiliation, kink shame that he's got.
That's true. We're doing him a favor.
We have to say no sometime to this.
Okay. And the last one that we haven't talked about yet is Jim Jordan.
I leave him on my list of bottom 5.
Just for the wrestling allegations, I would say he's probably bottom 5, just a straight up criminal enabler.
So you are locking him in.
Yeah, I'll lock him in bottom 5.
So we have 3 spots left. Locked in, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz. Still in the running, Mike Johnson, Lauren Boebert, MTG, Paul Gosar, Dean Phillips, Richie Torres, Nancy Pelosi.
Okay, let me clarify one thing. Is Paul Gosar, is he the guy who's like 90 years old? Who's the guy who's like...
You might be thinking of Grassley.
Am I thinking of Grassley? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Grassley is the old senator.
Grassley has the crazy Twitter feed that you were mentioning where he's like...
Okay, that's who I was thinking of originally. Okay, so maybe
we're taking Gosar off.
Gosar's like a dentist. Isn't he a dentist? And his family hates him.
His entire family hates him.
Right.
Okay, so now we have Johnson, Boebert. Speaking of Johnson, Boebert, MTG, Dean Phillips, Richie Torres, Nancy Pelosi.
I like that list. I like that. What do we have to cut it
It's
down
not
more?
5 people.
How many people is that? That's 7?
We have to drop 3. We have to drop 3.
We have to drop 3
Oh
of
my
those
God.
6. Mike Johnson, Lauren Boebert, MTG, Dean Phillips.
I feel like
Richie
you got to
Torres,
almost
Nancy
drop.
Pelosi.
You got to drop either Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene because they're kind of the same person.
I was thinking of Boebert dropping her. I mean, she's
not going to be in Congress next
Let's
term
drop
anyway,
Boebert.
so-
I say we
Yeah.
drop Boebert at that point. Yeah. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is also from my home state. She's also from my home state, so I got to give her a little bit of a leg up on that. She's got the CrossFit thing going on. You know, she can lift more than me, so I'll give her that.
So does that mean she stays on the top 5?
Yeah, she'll stay. We'll keep
bottom
Marjorie.
5?
We'll
Okay.
keep Marjorie
Okay.
Taylor Greene, and then we'll drop.
Are
Boebert.
we locking Marjorie Taylor Greene into the final?
Yeah, she's more of the leader. She's more of the leader. Yeah.
Okay. How about we take Nancy Pelosi off the list?
Of the bottom 5.
Of the bottom 5.
Okay. I'm not that mad at that. You know, she's not in a
We might
leadership
put her at
position.
6
She's okay.
for Matt.
She's top,
I don't think Johnson
top
and
10,
I would.
Top 10.
Bottom 10, right. So now we have 2 spots and 3 people, so we only have to get rid of 1.
Okay.
Mike Johnson, Dean Phillips, or Richie Torres.
You know, if you're going to ask me, I would drop.
I'm asking you.
I would honestly, just based on my personal sort of like infuriated like levels over the last couple of days, I would probably drop Dean Phillips. I think that Richie Torres has been atrocious.
I was thinking we drop Mike Johnson because he's the AI generated content.
No, but AI generated regardless, he is one of the most powerful people in the country right now, so we got to keep him. Okay.
Yeah.
Richie Torres, in my opinion, just over the last couple of days, you know, this guy, it's incredibly ironic to me that he represents one of the poorest counties in the entire the entirety of the United States of America, and his biggest issue on Twitter has just been defending Israel in every capacity that he possibly can. So I think that
He covers the South Bronx?
Right. I think that he deserves to be up there right now. I think that he's been absolute garbage over the last couple of weeks.
All right. So that makes our list. And I'm not going to ask you to rank them because you've done enough work.
Okay.
Right.
That's
Jim
good.
Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Mike Johnson. By the way, Mike Johnson, he may be converting me because I'm an atheist too. I didn't believe in the devil until they made him Speaker of the House. So Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Mike Johnson, MTG, and Richie Torres are our 5 worst congresspeople in the House of Representatives.
At this moment in time.
This list
Anything
is a
could
moving
change.
target.
Honestly,
Constantly in flux.
Mike Johnson wouldn't have made the top 5 if it was if he wasn't the Speaker of the House. So we'll
Oh, absolutely.
We would know who he is.
Exactly.
I prefer this timeline. When I
we
didn't
didn't know Mike Johnson.
who Mike Johnson was. And we didn't even bring up his mysterious, maybe he exists, maybe he doesn't exist, black kid.
Oh, I forgot.
I didn't even know.
We
about
didn't even
that.
bring that up.
I didn't even know about that.
You were talking about this in the Discord. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. It was in the notes. It's like, I got to cut.
This is too much. It's too
It's
much
hard to
cover.
discuss like the maybe he does, maybe he doesn't kid when we don't even know if the main guy actually exists. So it's kind of
Exactly. The kid could be AI too. Well, that is our show for this week. Mac, thank you so much for joining us. It's
Yeah,
always a
appreciate
delight to
it,
have
yeah.
you on. We will be back next week when I think we have an interview with Chuds of TikTok.
oh man.
So you are off the hook, Mac. Oh, I was going to ask you about Cornell West and his buddy Harlan Crow.
Oh man.
Brother Harlan Crow.
Well, I'm down to talk about that. I'm down to talk about it.
It's just we're running really long, and we still have another segment.
It's up to you guys.
All right, give me your spiel.
On Harlan Crow specifically?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think that, you know, obviously I like Cornell West in terms of just like his broad career and everything that he has stood for over the last number of decades and everything like that. But this run for president over the last couple of years or over the last couple of months has been, kind of a shit show, to be honest. And, I don't know what to say at this point. I mean, I wish that he was somebody who was like actually legitimately in the race for the presidency in the next election cycle. But I mean, just the cycling through of different parties that he's been adjoined to.
It feels
and
ego-driven to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point, I don't really know what to say about it.
The Crow donation, like, it's not a big deal. It's easy to come up with a statement that's like, I don't support the way he clearly has suborned the Supreme Court in some fashion, but like, he gave the individual maximum contribution.
Yeah.
That's hardly like the same thing as taking multiple trips on his private jet or his yacht or his country club or his cabin in the woods or his whatever his human hunting island is.
It's more about what it says about the role of Cornel West.
But West didn't come at it that way. He came at it as like, how dare you imply that I am bought and paid for because of this? And that's just not the way you should have approached it.
For me, it's more just like, listen, you were running in the Green Party for a little bit there. And, sort of the, I guess, justification there is that, okay, well, maybe we get the Green Party to 5% and maybe we get them some matching funds and you have some sort of an added benefit there. But then it's like, okay, you're running as an independent. What are you really achieving out of this run? And you're getting donations from guys like Harlan Crow, who are literally like Batman villains in the United States. And so it's like, I don't know what really the added benefit is at this point, but I think that it's been incredibly disappointing to see the strategic approach, at least from somebody like Cornel West, who I greatly respect from this point.
I agree. Yeah.
All right. Well, I have lost control of the cis hetero white men on this show.